Hey friends, welcome or welcome back. Either way, I'm very happy to see you here. Go get yourself a cup of your favorite beverage, maybe even a blanket, and let's find out how I made this garment in 30 consecutive hours. An all-nighter included. For those of you who don't know, I participated in this year's Foundations Reveal Contest 2021. So the topic was announced in the beginning of December and the entry closed on February the 3rd, which left me for approximately 2 months' time for making the garment. So you may ask yourself, why the heck did you do it in 30 hours? The reason for this is that I also started a business around this time. Due to some different reasons, I really need to get some financial stability. So that's why I focused a lot more on the business during this time instead of the competition. How it went and what exactly I did, you can find in my 3 latest videos. Anyways, time has passed and I couldn't really let go of the plan of participating in this contest. I actually did all my researches back in December when this whole thing started, but the construction of the dress or of the costume I still had to do. Before we jump into the making of the costume, I really want to give you a rough background of what the topic was, how I decided on the costume, and how my research went, because let me tell you, I have never ever in my entire life had such difficulties finding the information I needed. Like, never ever. If you're not particularly interested in this part, just skip to this time and we'll see each other then. Okay, let's go. So the topic for this year's competition was Once Upon a Time, which means that you can take any piece of literature and use it as an inspiration for the costume you want to make. Like, it could be anything. It could be poetry, it could be a historical book, it could be fan fiction, it could be a thriller, like whatever. The only requirement was that if there was a film version of it, it must have been a book first. And that's it. Since Russian tales and stories played a huge role in my childhood, I decided to take this opportunity to dive deep into Russian fashion history and get a better understanding on Russian traditional costumes and dresses. If you are interested in this topic and would like me to tell you something more about it, please tell me in the comments below, because I would love to make something like this for you. So later in my researches, I found out that there isn't such thing as Russian tales or Russian traditional dresses, but it's more like Slavic tales and Slavic traditional dresses, which is a much bigger area, and this didn't make my research any easier. Also, the fact that there are no resources on this topic, neither in English nor in German, really wasn't a thing that I expected. But luckily my grandparents taught me how to write and read in Russian, so this was a blessing in the moment, actually. But the learning itself was quite traumatizing. But let's be honest, almost every Russian childhood brings some kind of trauma with it. Anyways, back to the research. The only resources I found that really helped me were Russian forums on this specific topic, the few free ebooks in Russian I found on the internet, and also some Russian workshops on YouTube made by some really kind museum workers. So the piece of literature I decided to go with for the contest was actually the tale of the Frog Queen. It wasn't really hard for me to choose a tale, because in this one parts of the costume were described like really well, and there were only a few options left of how the rest could look like. So my original plan was to make something like this. This is a picture I also posted on Instagram, but due to the limited time, I couldn't make all of the pieces of the costume, so I had to set some priorities. First, there was the signature dress, which you can also see here, the sarafan. This was a must because it was the most recognizable piece of clothing from that area and that time. The second one was the chemise, the rubaja, which was also a must because it was worn every day, like always. It was a staple piece. Also, depending on how it looked, how it was made, what it was made from, and depending on the embroidery patterns on it, it told really much about the person it wore, like about the gender, about the age, about the wealth, about the status, like everything. There's so much you could find out about the person just by looking at the chemise they were wearing. Unfortunately, I had to sacrifice on the coat, which was a really important piece for detail, but I neither had the time nor the fabric to make it, and I also wasn't able to make the headpiece, the kokoshnik, because, again, I didn't have enough time. But this is something I actually really want to do in the future because, I don't know, like it fascinates me. I just want to really make it, you know? So I started by designing the chemise. In some forums, I often found this one particular pattern, so I decided to just go with this one. Unfortunately, I didn't have any guidelines to measurements or proportions, so there was a lot of measuring myself, estimating, and trying. The measurements for the square pieces by the armpits I actually took from a pattern of a chemise from 1830 I made a while ago because it worked well there, so I assumed that it would work here too. I recently purchased a book called Making Working Women's Costume, and I really hope to find something similar to the one I have seen on the internet, but unfortunately there wasn't anything like this. It would have made everything so much easier, but yeah. Then I began tracing all the pieces onto fabric, cutting them out, and I really hoped that it would work out. In the end, I had 2 big squares for front and back, 4 big triangles for the sides, 2 big pieces for the sleeves, 4 smaller triangles also for the sleeves, and 2 little square pieces for the armpits. I buckled up my pincushion cuff and started to pin and baste together the pieces for the sleeve. But soon enough I realized that it took me way too long, and I switched over to sewing them together directly on the sewing machine. Since I started to worry about the lace of the dress, I put the sleeves aside and began searching for a quick but convincing solution for the fact that I had no possibility to make such a lace in the time that was left. And here's how it went. So exciting. I was looking through my fabric stash and I found the tablecloth. And it has this on it. It's like not that beautiful, but this is the fabric I want to use. On the camera I feel like it's looking a little bit bluish, but it's more like purely gray. And this is looking actually kind of nice, especially if I will put on some beads and some, rhinestones, I think they're called, to decorate it more and to make it more shimmery. I think this is going to be so good, especially because all the border is long enough to decorate the whole dress. Oh, this is so amazing. Okay, I am saving up so much time when I use this. Then I began separating the lace from the tablecloth, and here's some really satisfying ASMR that you didn't know you needed in your life. So this is my mannequin with my mock-up on, and I am going to tear this apart and trace it on my actual fabric for the dress, and yeah, then we'll see how it goes. I really hope you enjoyed it. After that, I started to trace the pieces for the dress. The fabric I used for this I already had for some time. It is actually for curtains and has a nice but supple shimmer. The sarafan was usually made out of firm and durable fabric, hence why I assumed this would be a good fit. In general, for this project I only used materials I already had at home, which was really nice for my bank account. The dress had also a relatively simple pattern. Again, I found it on the internet and there weren't any guidelines on proportions, so I had to estimate the measurements. The front and the back are looking similar, only that the neckline has a different shape and the front is slightly shorter than the back. Other than that, it consists of 2 big triangles on each side as well as 1 smaller triangle, again on each side. The next step was preparing the neckline and the armholes. I needed to hem them, and for that I made little cuts in the curve so that the fabric would lie flat and pin it in place. Afterwards, I hemmed everything on the sewing machine, but I didn't attach any interlining because I just didn't have the time for that. I have to admit it bugs me a lot that I have such a messy hem, but it is what it is. For now. Then I sewed together the separate pieces for the dress and finally the straps. The next step was correcting the bottom part of the dress by cutting excess fabric and smoothing out the line. Somehow I managed to make the back piece way too long, so there was a lot of fabric to take away. To finish the edge, I hemmed it in the same way as the armholes and neckline by folding it inwards once. And now, my friends, comes the part that took me the whole entire night. Attaching the lace to the dress. During the night, I watched all the episodes of Bridgerton and I was not disappointed. It made me stay awake. I started at 9:30 p.m. and finished at 10 a.m. And I am apologizing in advance for the state you will see me in a moment.
Hi, it is actually morning and I am kind of still alive. It is almost 10 a.m. I am pretty much done with the dress. Let me show you. Sorry for the mess in the background, but I literally don't have a nerve to tidy it up. Okay, this lace was what I was doing the whole night. Literally, I don't have a clue why this took so long, because literally the lace is already like finished and ready. I just had to sew it on, and I was doing the most part with my hand, like sewing by hand, and then the last bits I did on my machine because I was like, okay, screw it, this takes so much time. So if I have time in the end, I will replace this brown thread with some silver or gold one. I'm still not entirely sure, and I'll put on some pearls and rhinestones. I feel like there are some places where they would look pretty good, but yeah, this is how it looks like. It's going down until the very bottom and then it's like around the whole. Actually, I think this is usually like an opening with buttons and loops, but I don't have any buttons to put on here, so I just left it closed. But yeah, I really like how it looks like. Okay, I'll show you later. Now I am going to work on the blouse. This is one of the sleeves, so this is the length I wanted. This is how it should look like. The only thing I don't really like is that the fabric, like the sleeve, is so fitted. There's not much room to wriggle around on my underarm, like it's like really snug, as you can see. Yeah, this is the only thing I don't like, but all in all, I feel like this is a pretty nice sleeve. I still think I will let this be like this, maybe just shorten it because I don't really like the ruffles on here on my wrist, but all in all I think it's okay. I still have to sew everything together and then I will actually be done.
In the morning I finished the chemise and I actually redid the sleeves because they were just too tight for me. This took around 4 hours because there was a little bit of fiddling around the neckline and in general just because, you know, I just made the pattern basically up by myself and for the first time, so not everything worked out perfectly fine. For example, the neckline was a big problem because I just couldn't make it a nice shape, and also like making a tunnel for the cord, it was such a mess. I was really sad at that point because it was just not working. Also, the area around the armpits was way too tight. So at around 4 p.m. I started to get ready, and at that time I thought that I had only a little bit over an hour left to submit my costume, and let me tell you, the stress was peaking. Luckily I was wrong and I had 2 hours left to get ready, take some photos, edit them, write a short description of the costume, and upload it, which was very fortunate. Look, the entry closed at 6 p.m. my time. I clicked the submitting button at 5:95. At 6:00 it was loading, and at 6:01 I've got the confirmation that I was in. It was such a close call. Like, oh my goodness, I don't think I was ever so close to a deadline in my entire life. Wow. You cannot imagine how relieved I was. I mean, like, imagine if I didn't get in. Like, this whole thing would have been for nothing. So if you're following me on Instagram and saw the post I made about the entry and what I submitted to the contest, you might be wondering why the dress is looking slightly different in the thumbnail and also in the video in the beginning from the post I made on Instagram. The answer is that I still continue to work on it because I don't really like to leave projects unfinished. I also plan on making the kokoshnik, as I mentioned in the beginning, but also different Slavic costumes one day. Just because I feel like this topic is really interesting, at least for me, and there's so much more to read about, to learn about, and to discover. As I mentioned in the beginning, I wanted to replace the brown wool thread with silver one and also put some glueable rhinestones on it for some bling bling, because Russians are hella extravagant. I made a sample from a lace piece that was left and I was pretty content with the outcome, so I applied it to the rest. But for now, enjoy some time-lapse of me putting on the rhinestones on the lace. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. It was a great opportunity to learn something new for me, and I would love to share more about this, but also about fashion from other places and times with you. I would really appreciate if you could give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to my channel. I make weekly videos about sewing historical focused pieces, but also about my little sewing business. I'd love if you'd join me and we could get in touch in the comment section. If you have any wishes or recommendations for future projects, please leave them down below. I will definitely consider them in the future. The pin cushion cuff I used throughout the process is listed on my Etsy shop, where you can get one too. I literally wear it all the time when I sew, and it's the best thing I have ever made for myself. If you want to get updated on a more regular basis, I invite you to follow me on my Instagram page, where I share my progresses as I go and let you take part on my journey throughout daily stories. For inspirations for future projects and in general, I have a pin board on Pinterest, so if you are on there too, let's hang out together there. On that note, thank you so much for watching this video, and I really hope you stick around, so I will see you in the next one. Bye! The topic was announced on December the 10th. December the 10th. Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen.